ladies and gentlemen of the press, special invitees, I'd like to take the time out to thank you for being here this afternoon for this momentous event. This afternoon's proceeding will be short but significant, given the fact that it means residents of 17 to 18 Broad and Street are now one step closer to realizing their dream of home ownership through this partnership with the Central Housing and Planning Authority and Food for the Poor Guyana Inc. Without any further delay, I'll introduce you to this afternoon's chairperson, Ms. Donnell Bess Bascom, who is our Deputy Director, Community Development. Over to Ms. Bascom.
Thank you very much, Ms. Carter. For the purposes of the use of the microphones here, please permit me to remain seated. Honorable Minister Ferguson, CEO, Central Housing and Planning Authority, Kent Vincent, Kent Vincent, CEO of Food for the Poor, ladies and gentlemen, all members of the press, good afternoon. Today we are very excited to be at this juncture. We started in July 2017 when the residents of Lot 17 and 18 Broad Streets were required to remove from the location after the court order. The court filed in favor of the Freitas and Gonzalez company. Since that time, we have been engaging the Food for the Poor Inc., and we have been having discussions, and several steps have been taken to get us to this particular stage. So we are very happy to be at the point today where we are signing the Memorandum of Understanding for Phase 1 of the relocation process. A total of 140 persons are going to be benefiting under this particular program, and the first batch of those persons will be relocated to Prospect. This will amount to a total of 20 families, and the families that are moving to Prospect were prioritized based on households with young children, especially those who are school-aged and attending school. So that was one of the major considerations for selecting which 20 will be in batch 1. Phase 2 of the project will see the remaining families being relocated to Cummings Lodge. So without any further hesitation, please allow me to turn the microphones over to our CEO, the CEO for Food for the Poor, Kent Vincent. Pardon me.
Good afternoon, everyone. Honorable Minister Ferguson, Mr. Leon Saul, CEO, Central Housing and Planning Authority, senior members and staff of the ministry, senior staff of Food for the Poor, my good friend from Broad Street, one of the residents there, as well as members of the media. As you should know, Food for the Poor is committed to provide assistance to those who are unable to access housing finance from the commercial banks and other lending institutions. As you heard, our priority are always those with young children, especially school-age children. To date, Food for the Poor has built more than around 3,900 housing units across this country. And today is a very special day because we are pleased to be partnering with the Ministry of Communities, and specifically the Housing Ministry and the Central Housing and Planning Authority in this venture. After a number of, I may say, unavoidable delays, today we are very happy to be able to commence the construction of the homes for 20 of the persons who have been allocated land in the Prospect area. We expect that the construction should commence within another few weeks as soon as the funds are made available. The time frame for construction would be around 3 to 4 months, and the other 50 homes that we expect to partner with the ministry to construct is at a later date, a date to be determined. But I'm hopeful that it will be sometime very soon. When we began this project, our project section, headed by Ms. Andre Benjamin, met with the people from the ministry as well as the people from the Broad Street area, and they had a number of meetings. We had to interview our friends, to see what were their needs and so on. And from that, we're here today. I want to mention that our senior personnel from Florida also visited. They came to Guyana and they visited the location. We had a good chat with you. Um, some very senior people came down from Florida, and we met with them, had some discussions and so on. So today, it is our distinct pleasure to be able to sign this MOU with the ministry. This, for us, is the first collaboration of this nature, and we do not expect it to be the last. I suppose I don't want to take away everything from you, my friend, but I leave the figures and so to you. But I'll just say on Food for the Poor behalf, we're going to be financing 41% of the total cost of the homes, and for each parcel of land, the Food for the Poor will be financing the cost for that land at 58,000 for each parcel, as well as we will be paying the conveyance fee for the transports at $8,000 each. So we're making sure that things are, we're making it very easy for the Broad Street residents. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ken Vincent. At this time, I'd like to invite the CEO for the Central Housing and Planning Authority, Mr. Leland Saul, to address you.
Good afternoon, Honorable Minister, Ms. Annette Ferguson, Mr. Ken Vincent, CEO of Food for the Poor Guyana, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, members of the media. I want to make something quite clear, is that Central Housing and Planning Authority, our mandate is to provide housing for the working class. And housing is a fundamental right. Housing is a basic need, because one of the first things that anyone wish to have is a shelter over his head. And for this reason, we at CHP, we are compelled to provide housing for the people of Guyana. And so when it was brought to our attention, the plight of the persons at Broad Street, as you're aware, those people are living under horrible condition. And so we decided to address this issue, and we would have approached Food for the Poor Guyana and Mr. Vincent and his team. They were willing to collaborate with us to provide housing for those folks at Broad Street. As Mr. Vincent mentioned, Food for the Poor, for the first phase, they will be providing 41% of the cost. And we at CHPA, we are providing the remainder. In short, for those units that will be constructed, Food for the Poor Guyana will be providing $12.3 million and CHP $19 million. Of course, the beneficiaries, they will be making some contribution in terms of sweat equity, because we believe that they should contribute. Additionally, they will be paying for the processing of the building plans at the NDC. We will continue to work with agencies like Food for the Poor as we try to address housing in Guyana. And shortly, we hope to expand this particular project in terms of providing housing for the slum dwellers at Broad Street. Of course, we will be going to Cummins Lodge, and additional units also will be constructed at Prospect. I want you to understand that we are very committed and serious about our mandate to address the situation of housing in Guyana. And we will do so. taking this our task very, very seriously. One of the things that we will do, not only providing built units, but we are presently making available also house lots across the various communities in this country. Of course, we have a huge backlog of application in the system, and we hope to address them. And emphasis will be placed on those applications that are earlier in the system. Basically, what we want to do first in, first out. And that is the approach we hope to take as we move forward. But nevertheless, we will work to address those with with little affordability when it's come to construction of houses and acquisition of housing solution. And that is why we will collaborate with agencies like Food for the Poor, because we recognize that there are a large, or there are some people within our communities and the society as a whole that cannot afford housing solutions. So we need to find ways in which we can address this whole issue of homelessness, and we are going to work to address that. Believe me, we will fix this housing problem in this country. It will take time, but we will fix it. And very soon, and I want to more or less quote what the president would have said recently, our intention is to banish homelessness, and we will do it. With your support, we can do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saul, CEO of Central Housing and Planning Authority. As we move this process forward, it's important that we understand the importance of partnerships if we are to be able to holistically address the challenges we have in the housing sector. And this process has seen partnerships with Food for the Poor for the relocation of the households who have been occupying this area for more than 30 years. We've also been partnering with some public sector agencies as well as other NGOs to provide the needed support to ensure that the families are relocated to wholesome communities. That being said, please allow me to turn the floor over to the Honorable Minister, Minister Annette Ferguson, Minister within the Ministry of Communities with responsibility for housing.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson, for this afternoon's simple ceremony. Mr. Kent Vincent, Chief Executive Officer, Food for the Poor, Ghana Inc. Mr. Leland Saul, Chief Executive Officer, Central Housing and Planning Authority. Representatives from Food for the Poor, and also senior officers from the Central Housing and Planning Authority. Distinguished invitees, I noticed one of the residents in our midst here this afternoon, and most importantly to you, ladies and gentlemen in the media, a pleasant afternoon. As was stated earlier, this afternoon we were gathered in this little room to witness the signing of an MOU between the Central Housing and Planning Authority and that of Food for the Poor. And the purpose of signing this MOU is basically to address the housing needs of those residents who were asked to relocate from Broad Street and Lombard and Broad Streets back in July 2017. Even though it has been approximately 2 years, finally the dream has come to fruition. I have been advised that these residents have been living in that area for approximately 30 years. And they were forced to remove as a result of a court action. And with that, the government intervened and a commitment was made to ensure that these residents are indeed relocated. I'm indeed delighted to be a part of this simple but yet significant ceremony today. which moves the ball closer to the goalpost of what His Excellency President David A. Granger recently outlined as his 4 housing pillars for families in Guyana. In his remarks, at the end of his walkthrough at the new housing schemes at Prospect and Providence, respectively, His Excellency reiterated his personal goal of not a single homelessness Guyanese, that every Guyanese must have a roof over his or her head, quote and unquote. There he recommended or recommitted himself to abolish homelessness and abolish destitution. And I think it was brought out, the point was made by the Chief Executive Officer of CHNP. According to the President, the guiding policy for housing rests on 4 pillars. And what are the 4 pillars? He spoke to the issue of reorientation, resources, regularization, and that of regionalization. Through this project, we see the realization of 2 components of His Excellency's 4 housing pillars. That is, reorientation and that of regularization. In reorientation, priority is given to meeting the needs to the most vulnerable, low-income public servants desirous of becoming first-time homeowners. Through regularization, the President is determined to put an end to shanties, slums, and squatter settlements. This pillar will indeed see the relocating and resetting of squatters who reside on reserves, so that, in his word, our children can grow up in wholesome communities, quote and unquote. This project accomplishes 4 things. 1, it advances the President's housing agenda for eradicating homelessness. 2, it demonstrates what can be achieved when we work together. 3, it restores dignity to families who were left to suffer indignity over 30 years. It gives hope to all families in similar living conditions. In closing, I would like, on behalf of the President and government of Guyana, to thank the management of Food for the Poor, Inc. for their support and generosity they continue to show over these last years. Thank you for staying true to your guiding statement and what it is. And I quote, saving lives, transforming communities, renewing hope. I wish to use this opportunity to say to every other family that is living in less than desirable conditions, we have not forgotten you. You will not be left behind. And I think, quoting from what the Chief Executive Officer stated earlier, that government, through Central Housing and Planning Authority, we are committed in solving the housing problems here in Guyana. The same government that came to the aid of the families of lots 17 and 18 Broad and Lombard Streets is also your government. And as His Excellency President David Granger promised, we will not rest until every family has a roof over their heads. And regardless of your race, religion, or the region you live in, we will work assiduously to provide accessible and affordable housing in sanitary and safe communities with the necessities of wholesome and dignified living. Quote and unquote. May God richly bless you, and I want to congratulate those beneficiaries, and I look forward to you playing a meaningful role and a part towards the development in realizing your own home. God richly bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you,
Honorable Minister Annie Ferguson. I'd now like to turn this part of the proceedings over to Ms. Samantha Hector, who is representing the legal department of CHNDA here today to facilitate the process of having the memorandum of
I will
understanding
just switch
signed
chairs.
between the two
Excuse me.
agencies.
This is from Central Housing. You want me to sign? That's my representatives from Central Housing.
A weakness.
Witness. Yes. I'll sign the motion.
Deciding this one. All right, so we've seen the two chief executive officers sign, representing their agencies, and we've seen the minister and staff of CHMPA and Food for the Poor signing as witnesses to this. So we'll do the formal official handover.
What will you do this? Well, that want to do that. I understand. Okay, Mr. Vincent. Okay, Mr. Vincent, thank you. I'm going to go to the performance review meeting across at Ministry of Communities. So,
Just to wrap things up, let me thank you all for being here. Mr. Philip Chase, representing the residents, we want to thank you also for being here. I know everyone might be anxious from your community to know what are the immediate next steps. We will be conducting a site visit with your group very, very shortly. We also will be having the turning of the sod in another few days, another week or two from now. We'll be doing that. Those are the two immediate things. And we'll also be engaging the stakeholders who we have been talking with from the respective public sector and NGO agencies as we move forward in this process. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Thank you.